What's going on? It's Zach Michael here, and today we're going to be showing you how to create an authentic sounding guitar loop without using a real guitar, using just VSTs. So if you guys do enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and check out elizabethrecords.net. So there's a couple secrets to making authentic sounding guitar loops, and the first step is choosing the type of guitar sound that you're looking for. And you need a bass sound that sounds really solid. It needs to sound very clean, because when you add the effects, that's where you're going to make it sound authentic. You won't be able to add good sounding effects if the bass sound you're using already has a bunch of effects on it, which is why I recommend any of my guitars from my Omnisphere bank specifically, because I make all of these guitars designed with the concept of you adding effects yourself and creating a more authentic sounding sound. Of course, if you want it to sound fake or you want it to sound synthetic, you can, and you don't have to put any effects on it. But I like to add effects to a lot of mine. So we're going to start here with this Atlantic guitar preset. Just like a pretty regular sounding guitar, but sounds really solid, and it's exactly what I'm looking for. Now we're going to be creating this loop in C major or A minor, which means all the white keys. And we're doing that basically because it's the most simple way to explain a lot of the concepts that are crucial to a good sounding guitar loop. Now, the first step is to decide on two chords. I generally choose two chords. So first we got to do our bass notes. We'll do those for our bass notes, A and E. So next you have to build the chord, and you build the chord by skipping the highlighted notes. So if A is the bass note, we're going to skip B and go to C, just like that. And now these are our chords. Now, step one is arpeggiate your chords. Now it does depend how you want to do it. That's an option. And we're going to go for this pattern with this loop. The patterns are something you need to experiment with and see which note you want to be arpeggiated. You don't always need to have, like, say, the bottom note starting. It could start with the E if I wanted it to, or whatever. This is just what I personally have chose for this sample here. Next, we're going to duplicate these over, and we're going to change the top notes of the chord here. We're going to raise that up, so it'll be the 7th in the chord. You understand music theory? Now, if you look at the actual MIDI so far, this sounds very simple, but with guitar loops, you actually want to keep it generally simple when it comes to MIDIs. Most people, when they play a guitar, are not going to be playing as many notes as you would with certain other instruments, especially when you're looking at a MIDI, because guitar, just like the way it's played and just generally the way it's created and in written music, is going to be a bit more simplistic looking. Obviously, there's exceptions to this, but if you're trying to create something that sounds authentic on a guitar and you don't have a real guitar, you're not talented enough to be able to actually play a guitar, you want to keep it simple. Now, we are going to get a little bit more complicated than this, because although this is cool, this is just chords. I want to create some form of top line, although I want to keep it minimal. So I'm going to do that just by adding a couple notes that hit throughout. Something like that, but I want to pitch this down. And then I'm just going to duplicate that little thing over there. Add another note here at the end, just so that way the melody resolves a little differently. Next step is just randomize velocities to give this a human sounding sound. Next, it's on to the effects. So the first thing I'm going to do with this guitar is I'm actually going to turn down the reverb quite a bit on this. There's way less reverb going on, which is important, because I'm going to have the reverb being added in future plugins. So first thing I always do is I open up a Fruity Parametric EQ. I like to add a little bit of high end and a little bit of low end to these loops. The reason why is because if you play a real guitar, it's going to have that very full sounding sound. Most VSTs are not giving you as much frequencies in those areas, especially when it comes to synthesized guitars. So you want to go ahead and just boost those areas. Even if it's just a slight bit, it makes a difference. Now, the secret sauce to this is using a guitar amp plugin. There's a couple different good ones. There's Bias Effects, there's Guitar Rig, which is commonly used, and I'm sure there's a ton of other guitar amplification VSTs that you can use. Really anything that will simulate a guitar amp will work. Personally, my go-to is usually Guitar Rig 5, just because I understand it the most, and it has tons of awesome presets. And I have a bunch that I like using here, just saved. Now, what we're going to do is kind of run through presets until we find one that we think we'd like. I like this one here. Breath you hold. Now, what I'm going to do is turn the output down a little bit though. And something I do to give my guitar loops a more authentic sounding sound is I turn down the mix knob on all my guitar amps because a lot of them tend to do too much processing. And I just want it to have like that texture and that color without being too overpowering because you lose that very authentic sounding sound. Next thing that I like to do is open up RC20 Retro Color. And I like to add a little wobble. Just gives it like a more played feel to me personally. Just gives it more of a real sounding sound. And another thing I like doing, but this is more so for trap guitar melodies, is sometimes I'll throw halftime on it. In this case, halftime sounds pretty good, but you can also use this at 50% or 25% just to create some more low end. 50% sounded pretty good to me. And just like that, you have a very authentic guitar sound. In addition to that, I like to drown mine in reverb a pretty fair amount. I think like adding reverb is a good way to mask a lot of the program sound that you'll get. If you put reverb on these loops, you can make it sound really, really solid and just sound a lot more full and a lot more ambient. Is generally the goal with my guitar loops. And just like that, you have a really fire sounding guitar. Hope you guys enjoyed. Head on over to elizabethrecords.net if you'd like to support me. You can purchase VST expansion banks, drum kits, loop kits, and MIDI kits that'll level up your production there.